Hello, we're back at School Farm in Dartington in Devon again. This is our third video, and we did miss a year, so the trees are now 4 years since we planted them. So they're a bit bigger than you will have seen last time, I expect. The main job we've got to do today is to make decisions about where to start the main branches, because we've let them grow on up to see what shape they made by themselves. So now we need to make those decisions. 3 of them have needed staking because the prevailing wind pushed them over and when we weren't noticing. Par for the course, I think. Most of them are really, really solid and fine. We've got lots of volunteers here, and they have remulched because the mulch was a bit needing to be a bit thicker, and they also did some weeding around the base of the trees, so they're all looking quite smart. So this first tree we're going to look at is an Adam's pearmain. As you can see, it's rather spindly, and they've all grown in that same rather irritating spindly way, rather thin long laterals. So now I've got to decide where to take out that long central growth so that we get more of a goblet shape out of it. So having decided where we want the branches to start, which is roughly 4'6" in old money, partly the decision was, do we have branches underneath which face as many different directions as possible? Do we have enough branches to make a decent shape? To which the answer hopefully was yes. So now I'm cutting the main leader out. Of course, we'll get some regrowth from there, but we should be able to control that during the summer. So I've made a bit of a mess of that first cut with my loppers, so I'm just trimming it up with my sharpened secateurs so that the cut's a little bit neater. The reason for doing that is because eventually we need that to heal as cleanly as possible, and if we leave jagged edges, then disease is more likely to get in and it's less likely to heal quickly. Next job will be to look at the remaining laterals that we hope will become the main branches, and I'm going to take them back about 1/3 each, I suppose, to a bud facing outwards or in the direction that we generally want that branch to go, so as to maximize the balance of the whole tree. One thing we have noticed today is that all the trees are just that little bit too close to the woodland behind. We thought we were getting a good distance. They're not that close, but even so, they've all grown slightly away from the woodland and have got fewer branches on that side. And this is something we can't do anything about, of course. The other thing we need to do is to take off or cut back the very low little growths that we left there. We called those drawers because they were drawing up the sap and giving the tree that little bit more leaf to photosynthesize. So we're gradually working our way up each stem and cleaning them off, or if necessary, leaving a few there if the growth on top was thin and needed an extra year to beef itself up a bit. The other thing we can look at while we're doing this, taking off the lower shoots, is how well the previous cuts have healed. And you can see that the ones right at the bottom are they're not quite invisible, but they've healed right over, whereas the ones coming up the stem are sort of halfway there. So they've healed quite quickly and quite well. One of the reasons for taking back the laterals is to shape it so that we get a fairly uniform tree, hopefully, in the end. The other reason, particularly with this variety, is because it's so wispy and flimsy is to actually get a bit more width in the side branches, the laterals, and to encourage fruiting spurs and sublaterals to come off them. Otherwise we end up with rather a thin, large tree. This next tree is Kids Orange Red. Mostly these have grown quite well. This one isn't all that impressive, but we have noticed quite a large piece of canker on it, which we will have to take out and hopefully burn quickly. Where the canker was, which was lower down than we would have liked, but it did force us to take that leader out, and so our branches are going to be somewhat less than the 4'6" ideal height, but there didn't seem any choice at that moment. So I'm going to take off some of the lower drawer shoots, as we did with the other one. Now you can see with the lower ones that I did actually come back in the summer and pinch them back so that they didn't become too vigorous and try and take over. So you can just see those bits where they've been sort of double pruned, and that's kept them quite short. So I'm going to take most of those lower ones off, but the ones slightly higher I'm going to take back because the growth on the top really isn't that good, so they can wait for the next year. So once again, having done those lower branches or laterals, moving up to take back the main laterals again, trying to think about the eventual shape and also to get some sublaterals and some fruiting spurs going. So this next tree is the one that we found which most approximated to a nice shape already. It was the only one that was sort of like that. This is another Kids Orange Red. So basically we'd already taken out the lower branches, the laterals, so that we had a nice clean stem. Basically we've now got too many potential branches. So I'm going to take out one fairly big bit because it's kind of duplicated on that side, and then I'm going to do the work on the main branches to take them back as I've done on the other tree. It may look, and indeed it does look, as though there are too many branches already, that if they all grow, in 2-3 years' time, it's going to be quite crowded. I think my philosophy on that is if we take them out now and something happens, like one of them breaks, then we are very one-sided on our tree. We can always take branches out, but we can't put them back. So the Ashmead's kernel, which is what we've got to now, they're quite vigorous growers and very healthy. They tend to be growing rather upright, at least some of them do, but we're hoping that eventually when there's fruit on that the branches will come down a little. So we're doing basically the same thing on this tree, taking out the very lower drawers and then taking the next ones up back a bit, and then I've taken out the central leader so that we are left with quite a nice framework of potential branches for the future. This last tree is a Ribston pippin. It's a year younger than the other ones we've just done, but it's quite well grown, so I'm going to do the same sort of pruning on it. One thing to notice is the fruit buds, which are swelling. We're a bit late with the pruning this year, it's the beginning of March, and Ribston pippin is one of the very first to break bud and to flower. Now we've basically hopefully got our final shapes or something approximating. So the things to do next will be, well, first of all in the summer to look for how they are growing and to take out any shoots when they're very young that we don't want, particularly where we've taken out the central leader, which is bound to start to want to replicate itself and put little shoots out. So we'll probably rub those out quite early on. And then next winter we observe how well they've grown, whether they've done what we hope they're going to do, or whether we need to do some more maybe a bit more drastic pruning to reshape them. But the main job next winter will be to again cut the laterals back so that we start to get much more in the way of a full tree with lots and lots of sublaterals with fruit buds hopefully on them.